everyone. It is noon on Tuesday, and here we are again on LinkedIn Live. Hello, Chris.
Hi.
How are you today?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to be here.
I'm starting to have fun with these things.
That it is fun. Yes, let me get comfortable here in my chair. So we are live on LinkedIn, and we might be streaming to a few other channels as well, Facebook, and I think YouTube soon. We should be doing that as well. So we'll just hang here for a couple of minutes while we let the technology push this out and people jump in to the conversation. We're excited to share another one of our virtual please welcomes today.
One of our favorite people
of all time.
We'll tell you all about him in a minute if you don't already know.
Yes, indeed. So, and just a note too that we're pushing this out live, but it can be viewed in replay as well. So this will live on Heroic's LinkedIn. This will live on our social channels as well. So at any time, people can go back and watch it and share it. That would also be a great thing to do. As always, like, comment, and share, right? That's the world that we live in right now.
Absolutely. I hope there's a lot of sharing. This is a message we're sharing.
Yes. So as people are jumping in, please drop a comment. Let us know that you're here. Let us know where you're tuning in from. That would be great as well. Should we go ahead and get started, Chris?
I think so.
Okay. All right.
People can catch up.
All right. Wonderful. Well, welcome to Please Welcome. My name is Kitty Hart, and I am here today with my colleague, Chris Campbell. We are part of Heroic Productions team in Minneapolis. If you don't know Heroic, you should. This team has been producing in-person, virtual, and hybrid corporate events since 2003. You can work with us all the way from strategy and creative, all the way to technical production and full run of show. It's all very exciting. And in-person events are back in a big way. So we are crazy busy these days. But one of our superpowers is the ability to concept and source top-tier speakers and entertainment for our clients' events. Chris, this is your area of expertise.
Yes, it is. I don't know about superpower, but yes, it is.
I think so.
Well, thanks. Both speakers and entertainment are really important to the events we produce. And having that capability in-house is equally important, right?
Right.
And we're the ones who know our clients and their strategies behind all of their events. It's not something we want to outsource. It's important to us that our clients, that we get it right for our clients every single time. We want to make them look good, and we want to help make their event successful.
Yes, absolutely. It's such an impactful component.
Yeah.
So we launched the Please Welcome series in August of 2022 as a way to highlight speakers and entertainers who are changing the landscape of corporate events. You said something the other day that I had forgotten about, and you said that after COVID, so many speakers left the business.
Yeah.
Right. So this whole area has changed significantly. And so the whole idea here is that our audiences get an opportunity to see and hear speakers or entertainers that they may not have heard of before, or that they may not have considered before.
Right. And not to just a lot of speakers leave, which I understand. I mean, some of them are going to be close to retirement anyway, but not really wanting to go do the virtual thing and learn something new. But there was a giant influx of new experts and new speakers.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to get your arms around who all those people are. And sometimes we don't want to take a risk with a big price tag for someone who's an expert, but we don't know yet if they're a great speaker. So that's part of this. And it's also to see someone like Daryl Davis, who we're going to tell you about here in a minute, in conversation and not necessarily always just in keynote format, so that we have a chance to get to know him better. And this is a subject, a very important subject. That's why we're here today, to talk about, not to be afraid of it, but to be open about it and to find out where it fits, because it is that important.
Yes. Yeah. So the series is here to fuel your strategy, to help you event planners, marketers, leadership teams create even better events. So we launched this as a quarterly studio audience experience, but we quickly realized that quarterly wasn't going to be enough. So we're now offering these virtual events in each of the 2 months between our studio events. So Chris, what is on tap for our audience today?
Well, we're bringing back somebody that we had in studio at one of our live events, Mr. Daryl Davis. And today we're presenting, welcome, Daryl.
Hi, Daryl.
Welcome. How are you all?
Good.
Very good.
I'm going to talk about you for a few minutes, so you're probably going to turn red. Today we're presenting a follow-up conversation with this lovely gentleman here who graced our stages in February, and our stage at our Please Welcome event. Our guest is a musician by profession. He's played all over the world with the biggest names in blues and boogie woogie rock and roll, including as the longtime regular keyboard player for Chuck Berry. That blows my mind. He's been quite successful with his music. And what's interesting is it's his non-music obsession that gained him extraordinary attention. Daryl shares important lessons learned by engaging those who didn't believe in his right to exist. I have a hard time saying that sentence. To understand the roots of hate and extremism, this Black man befriended leaders of the Ku Klux Klan and other white supremacist groups. He chose to meet extreme hate with civility. What he learned in the process was the power of conversation has the ability to build bridges between people who don't agree on the most fundamental of matters. After having Daryl live in Studio 15, we understand the power of his message. But we also understand that some might be a little uncomfortable to approach the subject of hatred, racism, and violence, particularly maybe at their corporate event, which is why I wanted to have Daryl back here today. Mm-hmm. We want to talk about this and shine a light on the importance of Daryl's message for everyone, but maybe in particular for corporate audiences. I'm hoping you all watched the news this morning, and maybe Daryl can address that too at some point, but there are scary things happening. It's the truth. And we're all thrown together in this big pool called corporate America. We're working together. I think these are conversations we need to have. So our question here today, I'm just going to tee this up, Daryl, and I'm going to turn it over to you for a minute. But how do we help break through the fear around subjects like racism and hate to get to the results of your powerful message? In other words, to make corporations feel comfortable to bring you in and have this really profound conversation that is not scary, but it is important. You say the most effective, successful weapon we can use to combat ignorance, hatred, racism, violence is the one that we least use. That statement blew me away. And that, of course, weapon is communication. We're talking, I feel like Ted Lasso right now when he does his speech about practice. We're talking about communication. Practice. Communication. Daryl's brand of communication, that is, which I've not stopped thinking about and I'm working on. I'm practicing. Every time a moment comes up, I think about your examples of crossing the lunchroom or going to sit at a table I might not have sat at otherwise, and striking up a conversation with someone I need to get to know. Thank you for being with us here again today. Will you please share with us for a few minutes, particularly for those who haven't yet heard your message, so we can give them a little more context, and then we'll come back and ask you some questions. Take whatever time you want right now.
Absolutely. And thank you, Chris and Kitty, for having me back. Really, really appreciate it. Always happy to visit with you all and the audience out there that you so kindly shared with me. As you said, music is my profession, but trying to understand and better our race relations has become my obsession. And also, as you said, I've pointed out, the most effective tool that we have to combat racism and extremism and things like that is the least expensive and most underused tool. It's free. It's called conversation. and I have proven, that it has worked. I can tell you something. I have been on this planet today. There are 195 countries, and I have been to 62 of them on
Wow.
6 continents. As a musician and lecturer, I have performed in all 50 of our states. And what does that mean besides I have a bunch of frequent flyer miles and hotel points? It means that I have been exposed to just a wide variety of people, human beings of
Yeah.
all different colors, hues, ethnicities, religions, cultures, ideologies, belief systems, traditions. And all of that has helped shape who I've become. But the most important thing that I have learned from all those travels and all those encounters is this: no matter how far I go from our country, whether it's right next door to Canada or Mexico or halfway around the globe to the other side of the earth, no matter who I meet who may not look like I look or speak my language or worship as I do, I have always concluded that every person I've met is a human being. And as such, every human being anywhere on this planet. I can't speak for Mars and Jupiter and all these space explorations, but I can talk about right here. Every human being I met wants these five core values in their lives. Everyone wants to be loved. We all want to be respected. We all want to be heard. We all want to be treated fairly and truthfully. And we all want the same things for our family as anybody else wants for theirs. And if we can learn to apply those five core values or any of those five values when we find ourselves in an adversarial situation or a society or culture in which we are unfamiliar or uncomfortable, it doesn't have to be about racism. It could be about any hot topic upon which we are on one side and somebody else is on the other. Abortion, nuclear weapons, the last presidential election, the upcoming one, the war between Russia and Ukraine, you name it. You're on one side, somebody else is on the other. Apply those five core values, and I will guarantee your navigation of that situation, that culture, that society will be much more smooth and much more positive. Okay. Now, you mentioned corporations. Some of them, a little reluctant to address, the hot topic of racism. But guess what? Here's the difference, and hear me carefully. None of these corporations or schools have a problem addressing the extremism of somebody walking into their offices and shooting up people. We know that's happened. It's happened way too much. Or
Yes, it has.
walking into a school and shooting up classrooms and teachers and students. That has happened way too much. We
Mhm.
address that very seriously. We take it very seriously. And when certain police departments don't respond proficiently, we take that very seriously too. All
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
We don't have a problem addressing that kind of extremism. Why? Because we're not comfortable. It's not something that used to happen a long time ago. If some junior high school student or high school student, got into an argument with another high school student, he might pop him in the nose with his fist. Other guy hit him in the lip, give him a bloody lip. But next week they're shaking hands and they're back to business as normal. Now the kids go home, come back with a gun, not only after that single student, but the whole classroom, the whole school. We
Right.
are not accustomed to that. And we take it very seriously. We address it. All right. So, why are we going to address corporate violence or school violence, but not address racism? It's because that happened a long time ago and we have gotten comfortable with racism and we don't want to rock the boat, stir up anybody's pot, get them all upset, talking about this, that, and the other. Listen, that is here and it has to be addressed because that also leads to violence, as you pointed out at the top of your speech about this extremism that took place this morning. I live 25 minutes from there.
Wow.
Somebody tried to drive a truck into the White House, into the gate of the White House, and then backed up and tried to ram it again. And when they caught up with the guy, they found a swastika flag and other stuff with the truck. This is extremism.
Mhm.
And so, if we take that seriously, then why not take it seriously at our corporation? Our corporations are built up of people from all different walks of life. And it could be extremism on either side. It all has to be addressed, not just right wing, left wing too. Okay,
Mhm.
it needs to be addressed so it can be mitigated, and we have to be more proactive than reactive. I have been proactive for 41 years now.
Yeah, I think, you're just bringing up so many things, but I think a lot of us don't know how to address it. Like we're all at work. We bring our whole selves to work. People watch the news this morning. They bring that with them to work. We need to know how to have the conversations. We need to know how to, like you said, cross the lunchroom, sit with somebody that you normally don't. These 5 things you talk about, I know what those are, but I don't think I ever thought about that quite the way I am now, in context of having difficult conversations with people who don't look like I do, think very differently, like all those things you just mentioned. And that's what I find so, this is one of those things that's obvious, but maybe not, it's obvious once you see it, but it's certainly not obvious in knowing how to do this just on our own. We
Well,
need help. And you
Chris,
got the answer.
you are demonstrating it right now. You are, and you don't even realize it. Okay, you mentioned walking across the cafeteria, which is something that I advocate for. And let me explain that for our audience.
Yes,
I
please.
I tell people you need to once or twice a week walk across the cafeteria. What do I mean by that? Take a diverse city, a Washington D.C., a Chicago, a New York, Baltimore, Los Angeles, whatever, Minneapolis, where you have a diverse demographic of people who go to school together. They work at the same company, corporation together. They may even be working on the same project together,
Right.
even sharing the same cubicle together. But what happens at 12 noon? Everybody goes downstairs to the cafeteria, and suddenly blacks sit with blacks, Hispanics sit with Hispanics, this group sits with this group. They all tend to self segregate. Does
Mhm.
that mean that they're racist? No, absolutely not. People tend to feel more comfortable around familiarity. People who share a culture, a language, a religion, or the nerds sit with the nerds. At school, the jocks sit with the jocks.
That's
That
true.
kind of thing. Okay, that's self-segregating. It doesn't mean that they hate those people. All
Right.
right, but now if you are a nerd and you try to go over and sit at the jock table and say, "Hey, get out of here, go back to your own table," well, then yeah, there's a problem, and we need to address that problem. But what I say is this: once or twice a week, get up from your comfort lunch table with your comfort group, walk across the cafeteria, and sit at somebody else's table that you wouldn't normally sit with. Okay, you all are working at the same company, going to the same school, what have you. All right, sit at their table once or twice a week. You have a lot to learn from them, and you have a lot to teach them, and in about you. And in the process, I will guarantee you, you will gain a new friend, and you will learn surprising things, as will they. And this is how we build community. All right. This is what I mean by walking across the cafeteria. We can do it physically, or we can even do it if you're telecommuting. Okay, call up
Mhm.
Zoom with somebody in your company who's in another state or another division that you don't normally see in person. Perhaps you have to do business with them, whatever. Ask them to set up a time when they're off, when they're not working, and just have a 15-minute conversation. Get to know one another about their family, what they like to do, etc. This builds community, and guess what? It is a preventative for future problems. Because if you don't introduce yourself to somebody, or they don't introduce themselves to you, you are left to your own speculation, as are they. And sometimes, when before we had Zoom and all this stuff, we had to call places on the phone and talk to somebody at the other end of the phone. We always try to picture what they look like by their voice. Right?
Mhm.
Oh, this is an older person. Oh, she sounds white. No, 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 he sounds black. Yeah, and we come up with some kind of image. And then one day when we meet that person, it's like, whoa, we were totally wrong, right? It's sort of like you remember when we had it here, but it made national news. They called him the DC sniper who was going around, and everybody was looking for a white van. You know,
Yeah.
they got that wrong too. It was a blue car. And they profiled the person as probably a 40-year-old white male, probably divorced, et cetera, et cetera. They got all that wrong. All right, because they were left to speculation based on this, based on that, and it was totally wrong.
Mm.
So let's not speculate. You
Mhm.
speculate when you don't have any facts to go on. You start somewhere. But
Yeah.
when you have the tools and the accessibility to somebody of another group, another, whatever, let's employ those rather than leave it to our own devices of
Right.
speculation.
Mhm.
Right. Could you maybe just give us, I know it's hard, but like for people who haven't heard you before, and I would ask you to go listen to our entire Please Welcome, that's on our website, to hear Daryl's keynote, but maybe what the results of some of your conversations, what you have done, both with the KKK and other groups. I mean, just in kind of a quick
Sure.
moment, so people really understand the power. Which, I mean, we talk. It sounds so simple, but
It is simple.
but
And
what happens if we practice this? Is what I want to get at for
okay,
a minute.
well, I had an experience that I never predicted I would ever have in life. When I was 10 years old, I was the
Mm.
only black Cub Scout in a parade. All the other scouts were white. Uh, Everybody, all the spectators were white. I was the only black person marching with my Cub Scout parade. And everything was fine. People were waving and cheering and stuff until we reached a certain point in the parade route when suddenly I was getting struck by bottles and soda pop cans and small rocks and debris from the street by a small number of spectators. I did not understand why I was being singled out. My first thought was the small group of people throwing these things, did not like the scouts. That's how naive I was because I had no precedent for it. So I was totally ignorant to what was going on around me. And even my den mother, cub master, and troop leader who came running over and huddled over me to protect me and escort me out of the danger wouldn't tell me what was going on. I kept asking them, why are
Mm.
they doing this? Why are they doing this? All they would say is, move along, everything will be okay. So I later found out from my parents that this was based on racism. This was happening to me because of the color of my skin. And I could not accept that from my parents. I did not believe my parents because my 10-year-old brain could not process the idea that someone who had never seen me, spoken to me, or knew anything about me would want to hurt me for no other reason than the color of my skin. That makes absolutely no sense to a 10-year-old who has friends from all over the world, of every different shade and color. And so my parents had to be wrong. Well, of course, I learned pretty quickly they were not wrong. And this phenomenon called racism did exist. So I formed a question in my mind at that age, which was, how can you hate me when you don't even know me? So let's fast forward. I'm still looking for the answer to the question, who better to ask that question of than someone, I listen, I just cut to the chase. I don't dilly dally around. I go right to the source, or as they used to say, get it right from the horse's mouth, right? So that's what I did. All right. Who better to
Sure
ask
did.
who better to ask that question of than someone who would go so far as to join an organization that has over 100-year history of practicing hating people who don't look like them and who don't believe as they believe. So I sought out leaders and members of the Ku Klux Klan, and I approached them directly and sat them down and interviewed them. How can you hate me? You don't even know me. You just met me. All you see is this, and is where this whole thing started. So I started this about 41 years ago, and I've been doing it ever since. I continue to do it today. And as a result of these conversations that I've had, all right, and I applied those 5 core values I gave you. Everyone wants to be loved, respected, heard, treated fairly and truthfully, and they want the same things for their family as we want for ours. All right, you apply those values. As a result, I never set out to convert anybody. All right, I like we all have heard. us three right here, and anybody in this audience has heard at one time or another when we were kids, a tiger does not change its stripes. A leopard does not change its spots. Why would I think that a Klansman or
Right.
Klanswoman would change their robe or hood? Right? It
Mhm.
is who they are. I
Mhm.
was wrong. Okay, I did not set out to convert them. No, you're wrong. Get out of this movement. Give me your robe and hood. No. All right, that's who they are. All I want to know from you is why. Why do you hate me? You don't even know me. And then, I'll thank you and I'll go my way. You'll go your way, and we'll never see each other again. That's fine. But what happened is, with those conversations and applying those values, slowly but surely, over 200 white supremacists, including KKK members, neo Nazis, alt right, Proud Boys, etc., have renounced their movement, their ideology, and many of them have given me their robes and hoods. Some of them even come out with me on my lecture tours and stand next to me and denounce their former movement and try to de radicalize people still in it and try to prevent young people from joining those kinds of movements as a result of those conversations. And I will tell you this, I did not get my degree in sociology or psychology. I got my degree in music. All right. I'm just a rock and roll piano player. So if I can do this by applying that simple, inexpensive, free tool called conversation, learn how to, it's not just having a conversation, it's learning how to converse.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
Learn that, you can accomplish these things.
And there's the crux of it right there.
Yeah.
We need all of us to be doing what you just explained and
And it
multiply.
applies, exactly. It applies in any controversial situation.
Absolutely.
And that's key there. As you know, as Chris said earlier, we wanted to have you come back because we wanted to talk more about it. And obviously, we want to share this message even further. We want more people to know about your story, about what you're doing. You're obviously you're staying busy. You're out. You're talking to people. You're delivering your presentations. We got to see it here at Please Welcome. We want more people to see it. So what do you want corporate leaders to know about how your presentation resonates with people? Because I think that might help. If there's a hesitation, like, I don't want to go near this topic, I'm afraid. How does your presentation resonate with people?
Yes, and I have had that come up many times. Um, Often, I won't say often. I would say maybe two, sometimes maybe even three times a year. Usually between 1 and 3 times a year, I would get booked for something, and then at the last minute, somebody gets cold feet. Oh, it sounds a little too controversial. It might,
Mm,
upset some people, et cetera, et cetera, and
mm,
they cancel the program.
mm,
Because somebody, maybe has an issue or is afraid of something. Um, no, I am not an extremist. I'm not there to provoke
mhm,
any kind of controversy. But the bottom line is this: there are people within our companies, our schools, our society that share extremist views. You may not know it, but they are there. But even if they are not there within the company or the school, they exist beyond the company and the school. In civil society, they are there. And we have to deal with them. We have not seen the last corporate violence. We've not seen the last school shooting. Unfortunately, we wish everyone was the last one.
Yeah.
Okay, but wishing is not going to do any good unless you're going to be proactive with those wishes and try to do something to help mitigate and prevent these kinds of things. And this is why it is so important, because this country, and this is very important, the media does not talk about this. Just like your corporations out there, your schools out there are becoming more and more diverse. So is it on the outside. Your corporation, your school is a reflection of your society.
mhm,
There's diversity in your society. There's going to be diversity in your company because you got to hire people from your community, or people from your community go to your school. All right, so it's happening. So you got to talk about it. You know, And all those people in your company, whether they talk about it or not, they still want those 5 core values and hope that they will get them from their company or their school.
Mhm.
So what's happening in our country today is this. This country was built on diversity. All right. Um, White people in this country have always been the largest demographic. The second largest demographic were Black people. Okay, we've always been around from day one. We've always been around 12%. Today we're 12.9. So people say 13%. All right. 65 years ago, when I was a kid, or rather when I was born, 65 years ago, um, Black people in this country made up 12% of the population. Native Americans made up 1%. Hispanic, Latino Americans made up almost 2%. Asian Americans, 3%. Whites were around 88, 87%. So we, Black people, were the second largest at 12%, which is really nothing. Today, the US Census is taken every 10 years, every decade. And all you have to do is go to uscensus.gov, and you can see the graph on every decade from all the way back to, let's say, 1950s. In 1950, the white population in this country was 89.3%. Now, today, white people in this country, as of 2020, which was when the last census was taken, are 59%. So
Mm.
you see the change.
Mhm.
This country was built on a two-tier society, white supremacy at the top, slavery at the bottom. And as we progress through the decades, we progress like this, perhaps like this, but never like this.
Mhm.
And it is well predicted that in the year 2042, which is only 19 years from now, we will be around for that, most of us. Okay, we'll be around for that. For the first time in the history of the United States, this country will be
Wow.
50-50. 50% white, 50% non white.
Mm.
Between 2045, it's going to flip,
Mm.
and whites will become the minority in the United States of America for the first time. That is
Mhm.
evolution. You
Mhm.
cannot fight nature.
No.
Okay? It's like trying to fight a hurricane. You can prepare for it, but you can't fight it. All right? So the majority of white people in this country don't care. They say, hey, that's evolution, no big deal. I can deal with that. Doesn't bother me. But there is a slice of our population, which we call the extremists or supremacists or nationalists or whatever you want to call them, that are terrified of this shift. Because when you have sat on the throne of power for 400 years, you don't want to get off.
Mhm.
You look at our last head of the country. He was only there for 4 years. He thinks he's still there. That is the power. That you don't want to relinquish.
Mhm.
And so they are trying to stop this. And what they're telling me is, Daryl, I don't want my grandkids to be brown. They call it the browning of America or white genocide through miscegenation. Those of us in the audience, and certainly us right here, are old enough to know the term white flight. White flight does not exist anymore today because the color of the American landscape has changed so much that anywhere we go, there's already somebody there who doesn't look like us. And we've become accustomed to it. But people don't want that to happen, especially this particular slice that I'm talking about. And they're trying to stop it. And that's why we're seeing this spike in extremism, especially with lone wolves. People going into a black church, shooting it up, into a synagogue in Pittsburgh, into the Buffalo, New York grocery store, into the Walmart in El Paso, the Sikh Indian temple in Oak Creek, Wisconsin. Was it Christ Church in New Zealand? These are lone wolves. They're trying to stop this shift. And every time law enforcement, I'll guarantee you, let's take the guy today who just ran into the White House. We don't know a whole lot about him yet because they haven't released his name. But every time law enforcement arrests, or if they shoot the person, whatever, they go and search their property. What do they find? A cache of automatic weapons. that are being stockpiled for what they call
Mm,
RAHOWA, 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 which is an acronym for Racial Holy War. The first two letters of those three words, or simplified, the race war. All right. Some people are still fighting the war from 1861 to 1865, otherwise known as our Civil War. Um, and as we get closer and closer to 2042, we're going to see more and more of these lone wolves. And this is why it is so important today to address these
yeah,
things, address people's fears. Let them, listen to them. Let, find out what they're thinking, okay? And let's have these conversations. Not tell them that they're wrong, not disrespect them. You don't have to respect what they're saying, but respect their right to say it. Because how are you going to learn what the problem is in order for you to come up with a solution to help
right,
mitigate it and address it and quell their fears?
right. And I just, gee, do you think there's a reason for this message? It's like you're just blowing my mind right now. But I think it's so wonderful to have you come before and tell us these things and show us that what you're talking about works. I mean, there's unbelievable evidence in the most amazing way. I mean, if you made this up, I'd have a hard time believing it. Over 200 people, you know what I mean? It's just profound.
And let me say this, okay? When my name is seen in the media, you Google things. A lot of the headlines will say something to the effect of a black musician converts 200 white supremacists or 200 KKK members. Let me just flat out say this: I did not
Right.
convert anybody, not even one. I am the impetus for over 200 of those people to
Yep.
convert themselves.
Yep.
How did I get them to convert themselves? Those five
Those
tools,
5 things. Yeah.
those five things, okay? And because one's perception is one's reality. Even if it's wrong, it's their reality. You
Yeah.
cannot change somebody's reality. They only know what they know. And
Yeah.
if you attack their reality, you are attacking what they know. And they're going to push back on you. And if you keep on attacking their reality, it could devolve to violence. All right. So what you want to do is not attack somebody's reality. What you want to do is offer them a better perception or better perceptions, plural. And if they resonate with one of the perceptions that you have offered, they then will change their own reality because their perception becomes their reality. And that's what I do. I offer people better perceptions rather than attack their reality. And that has been the key, one of the keys to my success.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Daryl, when you left here on February 14th, after our Please Welcome, you got into
Valentine's Day.
Yes, that's right.
you got into a car after our reception and you were transported to Wisconsin. You were speaking at a school system, correct?
That is correct.
So you don't just speak to the corporate audiences, but you also speak within the education system, which is incredibly important. Can you tell us a little bit about the difference between those two audiences, perhaps?
Sure.
Yes.
Well, one are our future leaders and the other are our leaders.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the people who are going to be hired by these corporations and these companies. These are the ones who are going to make a difference in our world. They're going to bring their new information that they've learned in school, their new technological information to these corporations and better that corporation, make it climb up the ladder and become even more successful. The more education, the more knowledge we have, the more success we have. Okay, and the broader reach we get. But I will tell you something, and this has happened at corporations as well, but it mostly happens at the school level, or at the college and university level. 2 to 3 out of every 10 lectures I give at colleges and universities, this will happen. I'll do the lecture, I'll do a Q&A, and then it's over. But there'll still be some students who want to come up to the podium and ask, one last question, or they want to see some of the Klan robes that I brought or whatever up close. And so that's fine. I'll hang as long as they want, if I don't have another commitment right after. But 2 or 3 times out of 10, there'll be some student hanging in the back of the auditorium, or the theater. And I've come to realize what's happening. They're not doing anything. They're just kind of milling around back there doing nothing. They're waiting for the crowd to leave the podium. And when that crowd goes away, he or she will walk down and approach me, and they'll look around and make sure nobody's within earshot. Hi, Mr. Davis. I really enjoyed your lecture. It touched me. Blah blah blah. Shake my hand, and then they'll look around again, and they'll whisper, "My mother is in the Klan," or "My father's a neo-Nazi." And that's how I was raised. I came from someplace, uh,
Mm,
some rural place, and now I'm here at University of fill in the blank, and my my girlfriend is Jewish, or my boyfriend is black, or my best friend is gay, and or my best friend is Muslim, and I can't bring these people home. My parents will kill me, or they
Mm,
will disown me, and I don't want to tell my friend because they'll drop me.
mm,
So they have this secret that is burning, sitting on their chest, burning an ulcer into their chest,
ugh,
and they have to get some kind of relief, some kind of release valve, pressure release. I am the perfect person for them to come and converse with, and I try to help them get through that. All right, and I understand completely what has happened. They come from some area, homogenous area, where everybody goes to the same high school. They cheer the same sports team. They vote for the same political candidate, shop at the same grocery store, swim in the same community swimming pool, and believe the same stuff. And now they leave home, leave the neighborhood and high school, and they come, to this college or university. And guess what? The high school and neighborhood doesn't come with them. But on this college or university campus, there are high schools and neighborhoods from all over the country and all over the world. They're seeing things they would never see in their neighborhood. And
right.
they're coming to realize, you know what? Jewish people don't have horns, and black people don't have tails, and gay people are okay, and this, that, and the other. And so, how do you unlearn, all this stuff? You've unlearned it because that was a learned behavior.
mhm,
So they want to know now, how do I go back home and tell my parents that they were wrong, and my friends that I've been lifelong friends with since kindergarten through high school, that they are wrong? You know, um, they
It's
want to
tough
know how.
stuff.
It's very tough, okay? Because their parents wanted them to go get an education, but not that education,
Right.
right? So this is why I brought up the tiger and the leopard. I never thought of converting people. I didn't set out to convert anybody, right? I just want to know why you hated me. Um, because I was under the impression, I was ignorant, that a tiger doesn't change its stripes, a leopard doesn't change its spots. So why would a Klansman or Klanswoman change their robe and hood? That's who they are. I was wrong. Yes, I'm right. A leopard does not change its stripes. I mean, its spots, or a tiger does not change its stripes because that's who they're born with. But guess what? The Klan person or white supremacist is not born with that robe and hood. That is a learned item.
Mm-mm.
And so, therefore, it can change. And I
mhm,
have proven that. And everybody out here can prove it as well. We all can change. I've changed.
Amen.
mhm,
Oh, thank God.
mhm.
I could talk to you for hours, just so you know.
Well, this is part two, so we'll have to have a part three one day.
Yeah, we
Absolutely.
should actually. We promise to keep this relatively short today. We're already kind of gone over a little bit, but I want people to know, if you haven't already, please go listen to the Please Welcome event we did in our studio with Daryl in its entirety. And you'll also get to hear him play some boogie woogie
Mhm.
piano. And you can find it at heroicproductions.com. Kitty, why don't you take us home?
Yeah. Daryl, thank you. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. If you would like to know more about Daryl, if you'd like to explore having him on your stage, you can reach out to Chris. Chris is the best person to talk to about this. And I think we're going to there's her email information. Come back again and join us. We will be back here again virtually on June 15th. Our guest on June 15th will be George Campbell. And in July, our speaker is yet to be announced. So you'll just want to stay tuned to Everything Heroic, and then you'll be in the know. Back on August 17th, we'll be back in studio, and we will be featuring Peter Katz. If you don't know Peter, take a little bit of time to get to know him before August 17th, and you'll want to register. Like Daryl, Peter is an international recording artist and a keynote speaker. So again, you're in for real entertainment, and you'll for sure want to be part of the studio audience. So registration is not open yet for that event, but it will be soon. So until then, please follow us here on LinkedIn, sign up for our monthly news. So as I said, you can stay in the know about all things uniquely heroic. From all of us here at Heroic, we will see you next month. Thank you, Daryl.
Since 2004, the team here at Heroic has been setting the stage for brands of all shapes and sizes, helping their stories shine through in-person, virtual, and hybrid events. From strategy to creative, technical design, production, and complete run of show. Please Welcome is an event series experience that you can enjoy either as part of our studio audience or online. This is our opportunity to open our stage and welcome to our stage thought leaders, experts, entertainers, all with something really impactful to share, and all with amazing abilities to move people to action. Now, you might be asking why? Why did we create Please Welcome? Well, we've been in the event industry a long time, and we know that when you infuse the right talent into any brand experience, you now have an opportunity to transform that experience from usual to unique, from mundane to memorable. And boy, do we have memorable for you.